How's it going, everyone? I am NotBae, and I am bringing you a discussion video on Mewtwo and whether I think he should be buffed or not. If you look up Mewtwo on social media, the most popular things you'll see are videos, tweets, and rants on why Mewtwo should get buffed. People want the tail hurt box removed, they want him to be heavier, they want a combo throw, kill confirms from neutral air, less landing lag on teleport, etc, etc, etc. And these are all things that people have commented on my videos. So since a lot of you have asked for my thoughts on the topic, and because I've become the Mewtwo guy according to some of you, I think I owe it to you guys to do just that. So I will first explain whether I think Mewtwo should be buffed, and then comment on some popular buff suggestions people like to talk about, and whether I think they're reasonable or not. Now before I comment on anything, I want to say that this is completely my opinion. What I say here is just my point of view on the topic. If you disagree with me, that's perfectly fine, and I respect your opinion. I want to say this now because I already know this is going to be a controversial video. Because honestly, I don't think Mewtwo needs to be buffed. If you thought I was going to complain about everything wrong with Mewtwo, then I'm sorry. You probably don't know me very well. In my opinion, he's a perfectly usable character with some flaws. Now I could just end the video here since I've given you the answer, but let's delve a little deeper into the topic. One pet peeve of mine is when people complain about things that are under their control. Now I'm fine with people venting out frustrations because we've all had our bad moments, and honestly, sometimes life just sucks. But what really grinds my gears is when people tell me Mewtwo is a bad character, then proceed to talk down to others for using a top tier, when they have complete control over the situation. Now you might be thinking, we have no control over whether Mewtwo gets buffed or not. This is invalid. And while you're right that we don't have control over how Nintendo buffs Mewtwo, you do have control over which character you decide to main. No one is telling you that you have to main Mewtwo. Nintendo has literally provided you with over 70 characters to choose from. It might just be me, but I really don't see the point in complaining about your main being bad. Like, if you're unhappy with your main, just pick up a different character. There's nothing wrong with switching mains. And if you're writing posts and comments that are over a paragraph in length about how your main needs to get buffed, that's a good sign that the main is not for you. You should main the character you get the most enjoyment out of playing, or the one that you believe will yield you the best results. I play Mewtwo personally because he comes from my favorite video game franchise, and I really like his playstyle. I get the most enjoyment out of Smash when I play Mewtwo. Now you might be thinking, okay, you're fine with the current version of Mewtwo, and that's great and all, but I personally want Mewtwo to be top tier. What's wrong with wanting him to be top tier? And this is completely valid. I fully agree that in a perfect world, Mewtwo would be a top tier character, while also maintaining his fun factor. I honestly want every character in this game to be competitively viable. But with that being said, I would argue that this isn't possible. The chances that the character you find the most fun playing is also a top tier is very, very slim. And if it does happen, then good for you. You get to play with your favorite character who is also competitive. I'm looking at you, Persona fans. But for the rest of us whose mains is not top tier, we're left with one of two options in my eyes. We continue to main our favorite character and accept them and their weaknesses, or we switch to a character that we will have a better time playing. MKLeo's favorite characters are Marth and Meta Knight, but he didn't bitch about them being bad, nor did he beg for buffs. He just switched to a character that will yield him the best results. So to bring things full circle, I don't think Mewtwo needs buffs. Would they be nice? Sure, absolutely. But he's not trash to the point where he's unplayable, like a lot of you claim. He's perfectly usable and has potential to make a splash in competitive play. Yes, I believe that Mewtwo, at his current state, can be competitively viable. He has enough tools where he can compete with characters in the higher tiers. At the same time, there's something that holds him back from being top tier. I don't think he's high tier just yet, but I can see him getting there within a year or two, as we discover more tech. And to those of you who say Mewtwo will never be competitively viable at his current state, I'd like to remind you that Jigglypuff in Melee was considered low tier until Mango played her in a tournament. If you don't believe me, go look up some old Melee tier lists. Now she's considered one of the best characters in the game, and stupid people will even think that she's killing Melee. That's from an old game though. How about an example from Ultimate? Piranha Plant was considered unplayable until Brood almost won a Japanese major. Still not convinced? Mr. Game & Watch was considered low tier in patch 2.0. Then Meister became a top 10 player in the world, and now Game & Watch is one of the most hated characters in Smash. And this was all done without receiving any significant buffs. My point is, just because a character is a certain tier now doesn't mean they are forever locked in that tier. Smash Ultimate is still an extremely new game. There's a ton of tech we still haven't optimized, and there's a ton of information we still don't know yet. We don't even have a definite answer for who the best character is. I'm not saying that Mewtwo is secretly a top tier, but don't write him off just because we currently don't see any top representation. I gotta come down. Now, I personally think Mewtwo is fine as he is, but I understand that people want him to be more viable in the meta, so let's discuss some ways to buff him. I've seen some buff suggestions that range from reasonable to unreasonable, and I'm going to address the more popular ones here. Please keep in mind that these are all suggestions people told me Mewtwo needs. Not things Mewtwo would like to have, but things he needs. And those are the people I'm going to roast today. If you want these buffs, that's fine. However, if you're saying that Mewtwo requires these buffs to be good, you're just wrong. So let's get into it. There are 3 reasonable changes I would make. The first one is to make Mewtwo heavier. Since Mewtwo has a large hurt box, his low weight punishes him a little more than what we expect, causing him to get comboed easily and die very early. Making him heavier would allow Mewtwo to compensate for his large hurt box. With that being said, I don't see this buff happening. Mewtwo has always been a lighter character in Smash, so making him heavier out of the blue would throw everyone for a loop, Mewtwo mains included. He has always been balanced and designed with low weight in mind, so changing it could potentially create some problems we still aren't aware of. Some people also argue that according to canon, making Mewtwo heavy would make sense, since he weighs over 250 pounds in the Pokemon games, and this is not a good argument. Making Mewtwo heavy just because he's canonically heavy is just dumb in my opinion. Sizes and weights in Smash have never been consistent and are never based on canon. Ridley was the size of half a stage in Smash 4, but is a regular size character in Ultimate. Lucario, who is canonically 3'11", is around the same height as Wii Fit Trainer, a normal sized human. Charizard is canonically 5'7", yet he's the same height as Mewtwo, who's canonically a whole foot taller. I hope you're seeing my point here. Sizes and weights in Smash are not based on canon, so why should Mewtwo be the only exception? But let's get into the elephant in the room. Remove the tail hurt box. This is by far the most popular thing Mewtwo players like to complain about, and I get it. I completely agree that the tail hurt box is janky as hell. However, I don't think it's as bad as you guys say it is. In my year of playing this game, I have never lost a game because of the tail hurt box, and the frequency of getting hit in the tail is low enough where I can manage. I completely understand the frustrations on the tail hurt box and how dashing back, a common bait option, is much harder to do. I just think y'all are overreacting just a little. I don't see this buff being very likely to happen, but that's just me. And then we get to the last buff I would be happy with. Easier teleport cancels. I don't see this suggestion as much as the weight and tail ones, but I personally like this buff a lot. Part of what makes Mewtwo's disadvantage so bad is that he struggles to land safely. Allowing him to ledge cancel with teleport would open up a lot more landing options. We've seen this back in Smash 4. I personally would love this change since it allowed Mewtwo to do a lot of really cool stuff in Smash 4. I think this would change his gameplay very little as well, which would be perfect since it wouldn't change anything about him as a character. Again, I don't think this buff is necessary, nor do I think it's likely to happen, but it would be really cool to have. This is more or less my dream buff. Those are all the buffs I would like to see. I think they're reasonable because they address the core weakness about the character. Now let's talk about a couple suggestions and why I think they're unreasonable. These suggestions are unreasonable because they look to buff an aspect of Mewtwo that already is extremely powerful, his combo game. Mewtwo does not need a better combo game. People who say Mewtwo needs better combos are the people I don't take very seriously in a discussion on Mewtwo. Now remember, if you want these buffs, that's fine, I'm not shaming you for it. However, I am shaming those who are saying Mewtwo needs these buffs, because they're wrong. Number 1. Down throw. Some Mewtwo players have told me that Mewtwo needs a combo throw because Mewtwo has no grab game. Well, let's take a look at his grabs and the ways to get around shield. He has a command grab that can be used in the air, which also true combos into forward air at high percents. He has a forward throw that deals 17% without pummeling, a throw that kills off the top, a throw that kills off the side, and a down throw that is used for tech chasing on platforms and mix-ups. Well, it seems like a pretty good freaking grab game if you ask me. Mewtwo does not have a problem with shields. In fact, I'd argue that this is an aspect he excels at. Being able to punish a shield in the air is something not a lot of characters can do, and most characters would be happy to have just one kill throw. Mewtwo has 2 of these monsters. The fact that I can choose between up throw and back throw to kill is insanely powerful. Mewtwo does not need a great down throw to be viable. Buff number 2. Neutral air? Some Mewtwo players say neutral air needs to be buffed so it can confirm into combos and be more consistent because it is impossible to know which side the opponent will pop out on. I know this because I've gotten multiple comments regarding this buff. Guys, I hate to tell you this, But you're wrong. I've literally made videos showing what true combos you can do out of neutral air. I've shown you how to drift with neutral air so you can true combo regardless of which side they pop out. I've told you that you have enough time to react to which side they pop out. I've even shown you 2 kill confirms from drag down neutral air. This suggestion annoys me more than anything else because I've literally made videos that show everything you need to combo and kill with neutral air. The 2 things that people are saying are the problems with the move. Yes, it requires practice and time to optimize, but that's true about anything in life. If you're trying to be a surgeon, you don't just walk into the operation room and start slicing patients up and then get upset when they die. You go to medical school, learn how to perform the operation, read books, watch videos, and even practice on dummies before trying it in real life. Smash is no different. Last topic I want to discuss concerns people's reasoning for making Mewtwo top tier. I saved this for last because whenever I tell a salty Mewtwo player that Mewtwo is fine as he is, they always bring this argument up. People say Mewtwo should be top tier because it would quote unquote make sense. They argue that since Mewtwo is a legendary Pokemon, while the other Pokemon in this game are not, he should win the matchup over them. And this is by far the dumbest argument you can possibly use. I've already explained why using canon to make a character powerful is not good justification, but let me indulge you and explain canonically why Mewtwo should actually be weaker than most Pokemon in Smash. If you really want to use canon to argue, then let me use canon to argue back. Mewtwo is the best Pokemon in Smash based on base stats alone, but who is saying that all Pokemon in Smash are at the same level? The fact that Mewtwo does not come out of a Pokeball at the beginning of a match also tells me that he is a wild Pokemon. This means he has no effort values, probably average individual values. This also means he's probably level 70, the level that Mewtwo is normally found in the wild. What about the other Pokemon? Pikachu, Jigglypuff, Squirtle, Ivysaur, Charizard, Greninja, and Incineroar all enter the battlefield from a Pokeball. This means they have a trainer. This means they could have been EV trained, have perfect IVs, and the best nature, and be at level 100. I shouldn't have to explain why a Pokemon at level 100 with maxed out stats will beat out a level 70. I hope you're seeing my point. Using canon to justify why a Pokemon should be weak or powerful is stupid. Whenever people use this argument, it just sounds like they're salty because Mewtwo is not a top tier anymore. And maybe that's why there are so many unhappy Mewtwo mains. You guys were expecting a top tier character, and Mewtwo is anything but. And while I understand the frustration with Ultimate Mewtwo when compared to his Smash 4 counterpart, I honestly like the Ultimate design more, weaknesses and all. I think people underestimate the amount of satisfaction you get from playing a mid to low tier character, and then surprising everyone when you actually beat a top tier. I didn't get a ton of satisfaction when I won in Smash 4 because I honestly just felt like I got carried by my top tier Mewtwo. Smash Ultimate Mewtwo is a difficult character to play. He requires a lot of practice and hard work, but it's rewarding when you win. It actually feels like I accomplished something because I worked hard in labbing the character out. Mewtwo is one of the most confusing characters in Smash. He feels like he should be top tier, but there are a couple qualities that really hold him back from greatness. And unfortunately, that doesn't sit right with a lot of people. Throughout my year of playing Ultimate, I have never had a conversation with another Mewtwo main where we only talk about Mewtwo's strengths. They always are focused on the negative aspects. All I ask from Mewtwo players is to approach the character with a little more optimism. He's not top tier by any means, but he's also not bad enough where he's unplayable. He's a solid character with some flaws, and I think that's okay. And if you still have negative thoughts about Mewtwo, that's completely fine, and you are completely entitled to that opinion and those beliefs. I just wanted to share my thoughts on the matter, and hope you all have an understanding on why I feel this way. And with that, thank you for watching.